Welcome, everyone, to another great episode of the Team Lead Talks podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Becker. On today's episode, we are welcoming Mike Hambright. He is the chairman and co-founder at the Investor Machine, CEO at Investor Fuel, founder and CEO at Flip Nerd, to name a few things that you do in real estate. Mike, welcome to the show, dude.
Yeah, excited to have you here. Or excited. I host so many. I was excited to have you here. So I do
Yes,
so
I
many
was actually on your
podcasts
podcast.
myself. I do
Yeah,
so
yeah,
many myself. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
excited to be here as a guest. Yeah, thank you.
Very cool. So let's just jump right into it. You have a lot going on. You have your pulse to the ground. Flipping, wholesale, all this stuff. Can you just give our listeners a very quick, 80,000 foot who Mike is, what you're doing in real estate today?
Yeah, so I started in 2008 as a real estate investor. Left corporate America, so I'm kind of a corporate refugee. Jumped into flipping houses and wholesaling in Dallas, and ramped up pretty quickly. Like our first year, we started kind of midway through the year. I think we only did like 4 deals that year. And the next year we did like 65 deals. So we kind of stayed at that level, 60, 70 houses a year for several years. And then as time went by, kind of things got bolted on. So rental properties, coaching, all these things started to kind of get added on.
Yeah.
And as time goes by, now over, I guess, 17 years, more stuff gets bolted on. It's more strategic in terms of like what that looks like. But yeah, so I'm a real estate investor. I run a mastermind called Investor Fuel that's for professional real estate investors. Do a bunch of stuff with podcasts, own a lead generation company, and have a bunch of multifamily investments now, and investments in self-storage and businesses in some instances. And so, it just started simple and got more complicated as time went by.
Sounds incredibly complicated. Let's talk
Yeah.
about, what I think. So the Team Lead Talks podcast is obviously for team owners, team leaders that are trying to progress their business. So if we could, we'll focus there. Obviously, you have a wealth of knowledge that we could probably spend an entire day or two or three talking about. But what's on everyone's mind now, kind of with the economy and what's going on in the real estate world, is like, where's my next lead coming from? Where's my next
Right.
business coming from? So what are you seeing out there, Mike?
Yeah, it's a difficult time. There's no doubt. There's a lot of people that have left the industry, and I think the truth is if I look back now, I used to be like the young guy in the business, and now I'm the one that's been around. I'm not. I know I have friends that have been around way longer than me, but I've got a little wisdom, I guess, just from having been through a couple cycles now. And the people that I like look up to, that I respect the most, are the ones that could weather those storms and just come out of a market cycle like this, like roaring. Because
Right.
a lot of the wealth, a lot of the stuff that happens early in a market cycle shift. And so for those that are like using this time to get efficient, to kind of get the arrow wounds in their backs like healed up and stuff like that, they will do the best.
Yeah.
Because what'll happen is when the market shifts, there's this huge opportunity that happens in the year or two preceding that. And then there's a ton of people that like left, but they'll come back down the road, but they'll have missed out on a huge opportunity. So there's also, the truth is no matter if somebody were to leave this business or any business, quite frankly, and jump into something else that seems easier, that too will get hard.
Right.
So it's almost like, why jump into some other pond that is going to have the same problem? Maybe it doesn't right now. And if you start to look at like, if you string a career together of like wins and losses, right? If you jump ship every 2, 3, 4, or 5 years into the next thing, and start over every time, where will you be in 20 or 30 years? Like you'll be at the beginning of something else or at the hard
Yeah.
phase of that thing. And the reality is if you find ways to, if you kind of think of the S curve, like you go up and you have a level of success and then it starts to peter off a little bit. If you find a way to keep stringing together those S curves, like up, 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 and you just find ways to pivot inside of what you do and get better, then you'll have a way more fruitful and kind of storied career, if you will.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, it's hard enough chasing shiny objects within the real estate industry.
Right.
Can't imagine like getting out of that industry, going into the makeup or cosmetic industry, chasing those shiny objects, and then you're not building momentum at that point.
Yeah, you keep starting over, and the thing is everything gets hard, and that's the time to learn, quite frankly. So I mean, I know it's for people that are money motivated and just like, I see a way over here to go make money by starting a lawn care business now, or I'm going to jump into like buying businesses or AI or crypto trading or whatever it is. Like, that's alluring now, but everything gets hard at some point. And so it's like, just buckle down and figure out how to fight through the hard times.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, like, there's this saying about don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. That's how
Mhm.
you get better, is you work through the hard times.
Yeah, no, fantastic point. So I know you have your ears to the ground, boots to the ground, whatever you want to call it. In your group, you have a lot of people in your group. What tactical action items can you share with us today? I love sharing this kind of like real tangible things that people can listen to us talk about and then go execute on in their life, in their business. What are you seeing as we're weathering the storm, as you described it, like coming out of this storm, where are you seeing people line up what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly people shifting exit strategies. Maybe there's more, literally it goes both ways. There's some people that are like, hey, the wholesale market is really difficult right now. Maybe they're not buying as deep. So they're going to shift to more retail strategies. Now, the retail market is obviously tough right
Right.
now too. So you just have to buy deeper. I mean, I started in 2008, and it has parallels to this market of it being a buyer's market. So we were able to buy deep, and the sales side was hard. But at that time, we just, we were new enough to not have a lot of bad habits yet. Um, but we learned how to buy really deep in that market. And we probably lost out on a lot of opportunities that we could have gotten if we paid a little bit more. So I would say, buying deep helps solve problems right now. And I know that's a little bit academic and easier said than done. But
Yeah.
another big thing right now that we're spending a lot of time with our members on and spending a lot of time thinking about is just very, very clear vision on what you want your life to look like, right? I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of people that get caught up in any business, quite frankly, but especially real estate, of just like more, 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 and what's it all for? And I'm not saying to like settle for doing less, but if
Right.
you don't really have a clear vision as to what you want your life to look like, the business is what fuels your life. Like it's basically a tool to kind of help you live the life that you want for you and your family and those around you, right? And if you don't have super clear vision as to why you're doing what you do, well, then it's easier to want to jump ship when things get hard, because you're
Yeah.
like, why am I even doing this? And if you have that super clear vision on what it is you're trying to accomplish, everything just seems to get a little bit easier because it has purpose behind it.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And just for clarification purposes, who someone might be listening doesn't know what you referred to when you said buy deep. Can you explain or expand on what you mean by that?
Just buy lower as an investor, just buying at lower prices. And so like, don't, we were not that far, not that long ago, people were having, in order to get deals, people, would start to convince themselves they have to pay more
Yeah.
and pay a little bit more for deals. And right now it is a buyer's market. And so you can, you know, not everybody is going to accept your offer, and that's okay. If you're principled enough to say, I'm just going to buy the stuff that I know is going to be a home run, or that I'm going to have no problem exiting, like if in doubt at all, like just be willing to pass on a deal
Yeah.
that it could give you, could force you to, lay awake and not be able to sleep at night.
Yeah, there's two kind of like underlying things here that I talk about a lot, and I'm sure you do too, because we talk to people in the industry all day long. Buying at the right price is everything. If you are just, you know, worried about not getting a deal, if you're running a crew or whatever, trying to just get deals through the door, that's where you can get into a lot, a lot of trouble when you don't
Yeah.
acquire the property at the right price. And
Right.
then making offers. I joke about this a lot, but back when I first started in 2013, we would meet with people all the time and then not make them offers. We would say it verbally, but literally not give them like paperwork. And we had a coach at the time, and he was like, "How are you expecting these people to accept your offer if you don't give them
Mhm.
anything to accept?" So I'm talking to a lot of people saying, "Well, what's your strategy?" And they're not making offers on everything, but that's a volume thing. At the end of this game we're in, like it's all just numbers, right? It's like a math equation. How
Yeah.
many people you got to talk to, how many offers you got to make, how many will get accepted and closed. Are you also kind of seeing like that's helping people sustain that model of like not going like this as much as you can, like try to sustain that stable or the increase in lead flow and deal flow?
You're saying just consistently making offers?
Yeah, like consistently making offers, but at the right price and not, driving your business into the ground by paying way too much just to do something and to
Yeah,
have.
I mean, so I've always been the like, don't leave a house without making an offer. I've like literally for 17 years, like I would discredit, like, it's pretty common that you make an offer and you're like, well, somebody else offered me $5,000 more. And like, oh, do you have the contract? Well, like, no, they said they're going to think about it a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
okay. Then we would literally just cut that person off at the knees. We're like, yeah, that if they didn't leave a contract with you, or basically, we would say that they're just trying to sell it, they're trying to assign it essentially, but
yeah,
we would use that to our advantage. Like they're out trying to find somebody to buy it before they commit to you fully for selling it. And we're not going to do that. Like we're willing to write an offer right now. This is our
yeah,
offer. And so I think every real investor should be making offers on the spot and be
yeah,
willing to sign a contract right now versus, because truthfully, time kills deals. So if
yeah,
even if they agree, like, yeah, I'll do it. And you're like, okay, I'll send you a contract later today or tomorrow. Like we've lost deals over that. They're like, yeah, somebody came in like an hour after you and offered a little bit more and they signed a contract right there. So
yeah.
like the most distressed sellers, what they really want is closure. And so if you can't bring that like right now, then
Mhm.
the typical buyer that we buy from as real estate investors, a distressed seller, um, has been distressed for years, if not decades. And they
Yeah,
finally came to terms with, I need to do this. Don't give them any more reasons to procrastinate
yeah.
because they've been doing that forever. So like help them close that door and use that opportunity to get a contract signed.
Yeah, removing the hurdles that exist on your end, but just taking them off the plate, like by leaving and not giving them the contract or not making the offer, is truly how, like, I've lost so, I don't even know how many, probably
Right.
millions and millions of dollars just because I didn't want to leave my paperwork behind or something to
Right.
that effect, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I talk to a lot of people. I'm like, just start making more offers, and then they're going to start to fall. And how many times, Mike, in your business, have you made an offer not thinking it would close, and then they call you like 3 months later, 6 months later? It's crazy. I honestly, this is a true story. I'm completely out of sales now. I have been for about 2 years, but when I was in sales, I think like 3 or 4 years ago, I was talking to this dude Richard about his house. He literally texted me like 2 months ago and was like, "Hey Andrew, do you still buy houses?" And I passed it along to my team, and they're working it. But I'm like, man, if I never made that offer, if I never got inside that guy's world, he would have never reached out to me. But you'd be surprised when
No
people
doubt.
say, "Hey, I wanted 300, but I am willing to take 215 or whatever the numbers wind up being."
Yeah. And it's way better if you if you have an active follow-up system, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we like the longest that I've ever bought a house after our initial offer that I know of is 54 months.
Oh, wow.
And it literally, and we just have a systematic approach to ultimately following up once a month. And it's a combination of phone calls and texts and emails and stuff. And then, there was a lot, if you look at it over the years, this is a little bit of an older example. And I've talked about this many times to some of my circles is if you look at it over the years, we would call and we can see it all in our CRM. They like hung up or they said, hey, I'm just going to rent it out or we're going to move back in. Like over the course of 4.5 years, like a lot of things happened that
Yeah.
it would have been easy to say, oh, they just said they're going to move back into it. It was a rental property. They're moving back into it or they're going to go ahead and rehab it themselves. Like, let's stop following up. But we didn't. We just kept following up. Truthfully, a whole bunch of them didn't answer. As soon as we said who they were, they hung up. But they
Yeah.
didn't say stop calling. So we just kept calling. And then eventually, literally, they said, is that offer still good?
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't, you spend so much effort. I mean, I run a lead gen company. You spend so much effort and money generating leads. You should work those things forever. And if you, as the owner, if we're talking to owners now, if the owners can't do it, then put somebody on your team that'll do it like clockwork because that's their job.
Yeah. Or
Um,
automate it as much as you can with
right. You can
direct mail,
automate it too,
email,
but
text. Yeah.
it's a combination of those things, right? But that has to happen because, again, the people that we're buying from have been like I don't want people to have bad things happen in their life, but a lot of people are living, most people, quite frankly, are living paycheck to paycheck. They're one bad news
Hmm.
story away from needing to take action, maybe selling their house, right? It could be a health issue, it could be a financial issue, it could be all the above. And the types of folks that we buy from are often in chaos for extended periods of their life. I don't wish that on anybody, but it's
Yeah.
just the reality.
Right.
And if you don't stay in touch with them and you don't work that follow-up system, then your business will not do anywhere near as much as somebody that has that on lockdown.
Yeah, and if you're not willing to do it, guess what? I am, or somebody
Yeah.
else is.
And then
So
the problem too is for folks that pay for advertising, which is basically everything I preach is paid inbound advertising. Then you start to say, well, that's not working. It's like, well, it's not working because you're not working it hard enough. Like
yeah,
if you follow up better, miraculously your marketing works better. It's like, well, I mean,
shocker.
it
Yeah,
wasn't the marketing, it was you, you know?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned lead gen. Let's talk about that for a little bit. What are you seeing in today's market that like one to three, maybe one or two or three lead gen marketing engines that you're doing in your business or you're coaching people in theirs to bring these leads in the door?
Yeah. So it all depends if kind of going back to goals, like what are people, why are they doing this? What is their goal? What are they trying to accomplish? That's how we kind of back into if you say you want to do 5 deals a year, my answer is very different than I want to do 10 deals. Then I'm doing 5 deals a month and I want to get to 10.
Right.
Like we can kind of back into what the advertising plan should be. So I'm very much a inbound lead generation guy, paid lead gen. Very much, I think honestly, I believe that direct mail done right is the foundation
Mm-hmm.
for every successful real estate investor. And then as your budget grows, starting to stack on, first thing I would stack on is pay per click
Yep.
and other online paid advertising. If you get up high enough, maybe start to mix in things like TV and things like that. But all these channels work together as well, right? You want to start to create this level of omnipresence where everywhere people go, you keep popping up.
Mm-hmm.
And the typical seller for us thinks that that's fate or that's a sign. The reality is it was just science and math.
Strategic planning on your end of a really
Right?
good
Good
marketing
planning on
campaign.
your end. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when you say PPC, that means pay per click. Are you in Google Ads? Are you doing like YouTube, Bing? Like what typical PPC lane are you in?
Yeah, I mean, I preach all the above. So I'm not as active on the single family side. I have lots of, I have a rental portfolio, lots of other things, but I'm not actively advertising for myself, but I do it for hundreds of other real estate investors. And so Investor Machine is a direct mail company. It's really a data company that does direct mail. But
Gotcha.
I obviously, through my mastermind, advise a lot of folks on what to do from an advertising standpoint.
Yeah.
So yeah, pay per click, primarily it's Google, and then people start to mix in Bing and other sources possibly. Sometimes Facebook ads get lumped in there.
Hmm.
We could go down all sorts of rabbit holes to talk about these channels individually if you want to, but
Yeah.
but I think the big thing is just like layers. And so probably one of the biggest questions I get and one of the biggest problems I see is people that have convinced themselves to do paid advertising. They'll like spend 2,000 here and 3,000 there and 1,000 there. And half
Hmm.
of that is going to fees through the whoever's managing it.
Yeah.
And it's not working. It's like you're not spending enough. Like you really need to have a foundational channel that'll get you 2 to 3 deals a month at least, and then start to add on other channels. So if you're not spending enough in advertising to get even one deal in a month, don't do it. Like
Yeah.
because you're gonna think, well, this isn't working. It's like, no, you're not. It's like you bought a Lamborghini and you put a quart of like fuel in it, and you're like, it didn't go very far. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, why would it?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's gradual steps. I mean, for anyone listening, getting into PPC right off the bat is probably a really bad idea, especially if you don't have the capital to do it, because that is something that will take some time to get to a stable state. And there are a lot of different things that you can do. I remember when we started, we used to do bandit signs. Used to drive around at
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 a.m. and have this super long thing where we like stuck it into a telephone pole.
Yeah.
And then we graduated once we got money to do you remember like yellow letters back in the day?
Of course.
Those were
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all the rage. And then we just kind of built up our systems over time.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's not something that you want to take lightly or tread lightly, I should say.
Right.
But you're running all this different marketing, and I'm curious, like, how are you staying organized around all of this, and like, how important are numbers or KPIs to you and the people that you coach?
Oh, critical. Yeah, you have to have. I mean, the good thing is like when I started, there were literally zero CRMs for real estate, like zero,
Yeah,
and people were using spreadsheets or whiteboards,
right.
and then Podio came along, which really wasn't a real estate CRM, but you could kind of
Yeah,
customize
Podio
it.
is our first ever
Yeah, and a
CRM.
lot of people, most people have moved away from Podio
Yeah,
now. Even the people that kind of ran Podio platforms have moved into other platforms, but yeah, I think tracking your KPIs is critical, and it's one of the things that people have the most problem. Like the people that struggle have lack of clarity on what's going on in their business. So
Yeah.
I really think it's important for folks to really understand very clear goals and then tracking the metrics that will help them hit their goals.
Yeah. It's really crazy. I talk to a lot of teams and they're like, yeah, we're doing 50 million or 75. And I'm like, well, let's sort of peel back the onion, Mike. Where did your last 10 deals come from? Or, what's your cost per average lead or something? They're like, well, I have
Yeah.
no idea. I'm like, could you be you're doing 50 million kind of flying blind. Could you be doing 150, 200, 250 if you actually knew your numbers and ran your business like an actual business? And there's so many people doing that, and when you actually have real conversations with them, they don't have a clue like how many interested leads they need per deal or any of their metrics, and it's crazy.
Yeah. That is crazy. Yeah. A lot of people operate, there's a, if you, I always, I think of like Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant a lot. There's a lot of people that are stuck in that self-employed box
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
and, they tend to not know their numbers. They tend to like, everything is like, if they get sick, their business
Right.
is on the back burner, right? Or they want to go on vacation or whatever. And so that, what I typically help people do is get from that box to the business owner box. Like,
Yeah.
what you're doing is working well. You're financially, you kind of have this kind of financial freedom, but you don't have time freedom. And
Right.
it's like, if you want to get to that next level and and actually have a business that serves you, that you're not the slave on, it's like, I'm also not the guy that's like in the real estate business is a bit of a hustle business. You're going to get pulled back in every once in a while. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, most people don't have a business big enough to have redundancy. So if you have like one key person in a role and they get
Yeah.
hit by a truck or they quit or they're sick or whatever, then you get pulled back in. And I think the key is to try to build a business up to where you have some redundancy there. So you have some ups and downs, but it's not like you go from CEO to toilet scrubber in the same day.
Yeah, it's like that key man syndrome where most of the people I talk to, and it sounds like kind of you're in the same boat, they're the main producer. And it's really
Right.
difficult to step away and it's scary. Like I was in that position once with my business partner. We were the main producers and then we kind of thinking back like what kind of a business do we want? And we didn't want to have to answer phones. We didn't want to have to go on appointments. We wanted
Right.
to kind of run and steer the ship. And
Yep.
our production from the day we went out of sales to like the first 6 and 12 months went like this. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to get back into sales. But then we started to systematize, get really good, get collecting real time information to make better decisions,
Yep.
running the company like it should be. And we were able to kind of increase from there. But I'm sure
Yep.
you see that a lot too.
Yeah. It's unfortunately common. Right. And,
Right.
but it's just, you have to have, again, kind of come back to what I said at the very beginning. If you don't have clarity on what you want in your life, like what you
Yeah.
want your life to look like, then it's hard to tie it back to the business because you're just like, I'm just kind of getting by. I'm in the weeds doing whatever. And you
Yeah.
lose sight as to like, what are you doing it for?
Yeah, because one week you want something, the other week you want something else, and before you know it, it's chaotic, and you're not going down the same
And a
like.
lot of entrepreneurs start to have this mentality of like, I've kind of given this analogy before. I'm like, look, if I were to buy a McDonald's, I'm just a perfectionist. I have, OCD and all sorts of issues. I'm like, nobody would get those fries as golden brown as me. But as the owner of a McDonald's, like I can't be the fry guy.
Yeah,
And so it's that way in the business too. I because I'm the owner, and a lot of owners uh, do things the best because they treat it like they own it, and most people that work for you, it's just a job, right?
yeah,
And so but you have to, and the problem is their business. I talk a lot about the business moat. Like if your moat's not wide enough to weather some storms, like you need to find ways to widen it.
yeah,
That usually is through scale. And so, but a lot of business owners, their business is not scaled up to where it can run without them.
yeah,
And therefore, anytime they go on vacation or they are out sick or whatever, power out is like anything happens and the business is like super fragile, right? And
yeah,
so it doesn't have to be that way, but it is for most.
yeah. It's the old saying like no one's going to care as much as you about your business,
No
but
doubt.
that kind of goes into the approach of like right person, right seat, right cultural fit. That's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But
Yeah.
getting the right people in and having a system for them to come into, I firmly believe in. So they're not kind of like, well, what the hell am I doing here? Like, what am I? It's hard enough for you as an owner sometimes to be like, this is where I want to go. And that's my end result that I'm looking for. But think about if you don't have that as a business owner and then you come and join my team and you're like, well, where do I fit in? What are we even doing here? And then
Right.
that leads to team member churn and morale issues and all that good stuff, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, Mike, I took something from Tom. I was on his podcast earlier this week, and and I listened to all of Tom Kroll's podcasts, and at the end, he always says, to his guests, like, what's one resource, what's one tool, what's one thing that you can add or give away here to make someone's life or business better? Is there anything that you can share with us today that we'd be able to, share with our audience and who's listening?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. A couple things. One is just get clarity on what it is you are trying to accomplish. When will this show come out? Do you know?
There's a queue. I'm trying to push 2 or 3 a week, so maybe like December, January.
Okay. Yeah, I've got something coming up that's like a life planning your life for entrepreneurs. It's December 3rd. So by the time this comes out, that'll be
Oh
probably.
yeah, it's probably not going to come out.
Yeah.
If you tell me to push it, I can get the post production team to push it. Should I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, that's up to you, buddy. But I could,
Yeah.
if it comes out before then, I have an event coming up on December 3rd. That's a life planning exercise for entrepreneurs.
Is that
But
a virtual in person? Like what are
it's
the
virtual.
details?
It's done virtually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All
anyway,
right.
we can, I know we don't want to talk about it live on the show necessarily, but if afterwards, if you want the link and people get this in time, they can check this out. But at any rate, I think, just thinking about what do you want what's the purpose of this and kind of planning, what do you want? Like, think about this. A lot of entrepreneurs, real estate and otherwise, like they'll kind of, even if they are systematically planning their business, they have an element of EOS or some other operating system
Yeah.
where you're kind of putting in place like goals, KPIs, scoreboards, meetings to track that every week, all that stuff. Like, how many people are actually doing that in their life, their personal life? Like, how many people are kind of EOSing their family, their friends, their faith, their fitness, their finances, like all those things? Like, why are
Yeah.
you doing these things? And I found that when you have absolute purpose in your life and you know what it is you want to accomplish, the business is just easier because it's just like, well, I need to build a business that allows me to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And so some of it is that just having absolute clarity on what it is you want to have in your life. So the other thing is, in terms of a resource, is the book Who Not How. That's obviously become
I love
popular over the
that book.
past couple of years,
Yep.
but just basically trying to figure out, for a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we're like, how am I going to do this? Like, you have big dreams, there's things you want to accomplish. And you're like, a lot of times it's just like, well, and Russell Brunson calls it the big domino. Like, I have
Mhm.
all these kind of problems, but if I push over the big domino and it can push over all the other problems, like, what would that be? In our business, it tends to be a person. Like, how do you find a person? It could be a COO, a director of operations, sometimes even an executive assistant. And as the entrepreneur, you've got a million things going on, and you're like, is there one person that could solve like a big chunk of my problems? And the answer is usually yes. And
Yes.
so, and if you're like, well, I can't afford that person, it's like, well, what does that say about your business then, if you can't afford one person to
Right.
come in? And obviously you want to tie it back to like, hey, if they solve all those problems for me, then you could spend your time generating additional revenue or whatever
Yep.
that should easily be able to offset the cost of that. What is that worth to you in your life?
Yeah. Thinking about where you can leverage yourself out, and you don't have to start with everything, but start with
Right.
something small and build up. It's funny that, Mike, that you mentioned for the personal side, kind of running it like you would like a business. About a year or two ago, I got obsessed, and I'm also OCD, so I think we share in that same affinity. But I made a P&L for my personal life and a
Yeah.
playbook library, SOPs for my personal life, and my wife and kids thought I was crazy, but it actually does help because you're getting clarity. You get clarity in your business. Why would you not get clarity in your personal life as well? So I love that idea, and
Yep.
I will push the team to get this out so we can help you advertise that December
Oh,
3rd
cool.
event. So that's my Thanksgiving promise to you and to everyone
There we
listening.
go. There we
Yeah.
go. Well, I'm giving thanks.
Yes. Yes. Well, Mike, dude, it was really great to see you again. I know we got to connect in Nashville. Hope to see you again in person very soon.
Yep.
Um, Thanks so much for being on the show, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Good to see
All
you.
right, all right, man. Bye.
Bye-bye.